name is Patrick Way. I've been a photographer for 40 years. I always took pictures wherever I went, even if I wasn't making money at it, involved in other entrepreneurial types of projects. But I always maintained taking cameras around with me and photographing just about anything, documenting anything and anywhere I went. I remember in the 60s, my best friend moved to California when I was 15. So that would have been like 1963. And in 1965, I went to California, so I was 17. Started smoking marijuana around that time. When I came back to Kitchener, there was a group of people that may have, within a year, there might have been 30 people that would meet at a particular corner down on King Street to buy some marijuana. And just to give you an idea of how that expanded after, 67, 68, 69, and it was just like right across the globe. There was a movement, I guess, I'm thinking about close to the 80s. There was a few clubs around, like the Back Door, which was the Metro Tavern, and it was a little club in the back that turned into a kind of a club where a lot of the artsy people hung out and did events. Like I did a lot of slide-orientated shows against backdrops of bands and jazz bands. So I traveled a fair amount back in the 70s and 80s, down through all the states, Mexico, lived in New York for a little while, Vancouver, LA. I have a friend there that I kept traveling back and forth. I've done all kinds of stuff from studio photography, weddings here and there, industrial photography, some helicopter shooting, manipulated imagery from way back of doing stuff that nobody else was really doing at the time, taking acetate and hand painting it with colored gelatins and acids and things like that that would eat through the emulsion and sandwiching on to other shots. I also developed another type of photography that I still haven't seen much of, the odd one, and that's taking pictures into reflections of puddles and then turning them upside down so that you can see the reflection the right way, similar to some of the shots that you'll see. And it adds this whole other dimension because you have a surface of the puddle plus the reflection, and they kind of cross each other and do this bizarre thing that some of them kind of hard to understand, so it kind of turns it into a surreal type of image. There's no doubt that some of my slides from the analog era they're definitely unique when I manipulate them in Photoshop versus if you shot it in digital. And you just can't get that. And one way that I can explain it in a sense, and I knew this right from the day one when I first got Photoshop, if I took one shot and I wanted to lay another shot on top of it, I had to make one less opaque, transparent, and then another transparent. Not the same as when you take a slide that is 100% of what it is and put another 100% on top of it. So you end up with this richness, because you never lost it, you never made one less opaque. So it's got a richness, and when it's sandwiched on top, you end up with this uniqueness. Definitely can't do in Photoshop. My first break really was, I was living in Mexico and I came back in 1976, I believe, and a friend of mine, Doug Biggs, worked for an audio studio, and it was a studio that he was kind of ahead of his time, friend of mine now, Nick, and he started a video company. And so this is back in like 1976. There were no separate video production houses, even in Toronto, I don't think. There was an NFB film that was being produced, and we got hired to do the production, and I was the stills guy up in Algoma, north of Lake Superior. And that kind of started my career, because I had to really perform and make sure that I had the shot. I met Vern a number of years ago through synchronicities of coming up from Mexico and peyote experiences and so on. Won't go into all that, but Vern for the Sisterhood would do sweats once a week, I think, for a period of time, and I often went. What a sweat lodge is well, Vern would probably say that it's a prayer lodge. It's a place, it's their church basically. Native American Indians right across North America, mostly in the northern part, had sweat lodge ceremonies. And we went to a lot of the prisons in Ontario, Guelph Prison, Warkworth, which is a large prison up near Kingston, and P4W, which is prison for women in Kingston. So as an example, there was a few women that I got to know a bit that had been in there for a long time. And in fact, they liked me because I guess I wasn't a threat to them somehow or whatever. And I got to document it. One particular woman in there for murdering a white man that was raping her. And she gets double the time because she's an Indian and or a native. Anyways, and her family lived out in Alberta, and in all that time that she had been in prison, this is just one example, 20 years or whatever, she never had any visitors because they're all very poor. They can't afford to fly, 2,000 miles and then spend a few nights in a hotel and so on, so she never ever had a visitor. I've always distinguished the bridge between my definition of art to some extent is there's very little art. Most of it's craft, and a lot of mine is too. I'm not trying to perpetrate that, but there are some that I've done that I would consider maybe a piece of art. And what is art? Well, I don't know exactly, but it's something that kind of moves the inner soul or spirit or heart of a person and somewhat maybe helps to transform that person.